Right. Well, this is for those of you who do want to watch somebody draw and know how to get their nose in the right place. This is not the video for you. Personally, this is so the question came up this morning that somebody talked about designing a painting, and as you know, back in the day, that was my job. Graphic designer was my job, and design and the arrangement of stuff, which is what Milton Glaser referred to it. Just keep moving things around so you like it, which is what he called graphic design. And was a great man, great artist as well. Draw every day. He's the guy that said drawing is thinking. I don't agree, but it's a great soundbite. But so I personally do not design portraits. I don't. It's not something I've considered, and or I consider now. I'm going to just flick through some of these drawings, and unfortunately, there's a hell of a lot of design in them, and it got me thinking about, like that, for instance. It got me thinking about this. See, I like to think that I just stick there's a designed portrait. I like to think I just stick the face in the middle of the paper, and that's about as designed as it gets. But then it struck me that this one person was talking about portraits don't sell. It's not a concern for me because I don't sell them. So, but it just got me thinking. And the ones that I see, I just stick a face in it on the middle of the paper. And the route you can take with this, and this is the route most people will take, is that you'll get good at execution. You'll practice how you blend, you'll practice how you build the shapes and how you render the hair and all that. You'll practice all those things. So you get really good at rendering. It can be a long road for some people. It depends. It depends on their awareness. So this is the thing about the, should you design? So their awareness will be basically trying to create something that's pretty and attractive, but it's limited by their abilities, their skills. So they've got to find the skills, they've got to refine and hone their skills. But that's a particular route. And then one day when they've refined their skills, it's still a painting or a drawing of a face that somebody doesn't know, and they're not likely to want to put on their walls. So you've got really good at doing that. Some people get into scenes, so they create, 3 or 4 guys down the woodshop kind of thing, or in the cafe. That's classic. You get a couple in the cafe. It'll sell because it's romantic and all the rest of it. So they develop the skills and then they apply the skills to things that people would want to put on the walls. But portraits are a different thing. So drawing faces like that, drawing a face like that, there's no way anybody wants that on the face, on the wall. Not that. But the ones that seem, the people that seem to be able to get a handle on this are the ones that turn the thing into a decorative art. They'll distress parts of it, and you just see an eye popping out or a pair of lips popping out. They'll distress the thing, and it'll be used in colours that can be sort of hung on a wall and look quite contemporary. There's that kind of thing, and that's quite a common thing. But the thing about that is people do that sometimes. I've got a friend who does it who can't draw. So no matter how funky the background is, if he can't draw, it still looks naff, because the drawing is not about making marks. Drawing is about seeing. So if you can't observe with accuracy, it's still going to look pretty, sort of naive, shall we say, but not in a good way. So this thing about the design of a portrait, I'm trying to get to a point where I can see one. See that in a way is a designed portrait. The way it touches the sides, the way it's got that sort of washed out feel about it, but all the shapes are there. That's a kind of, a design. That too is a design portrait. And again, that is definitely a design portrait. But this is the thing. So I'm not conscious of doing this. I just do it, and I do what I like. And I stop when I like it. It's that kind of thing. So these are designed in that respect, but they're not designed to sell. I'm not doing it with the intention that somebody would want to put it on the wall. That, for instance, is a perfect example of a design portrait, but it's not meant to be put on somebody's wall. So this is the question: should you design it, and how do you go about designing it, and are there, is it an evolution? So this one, for instance, I'm doing the same girl again now. I'm going to, as part of this, what I'm going to do with this, let me just warn you what I'm going to do with this. I'm talking about this question, and I'm intending to design a portrait, but as opposed to sticking it on the middle of the paper and then doing this kind of thing that gives it a designy feel about it, because it looks reminiscent of traditional oldie worldy, the Sergeant Zorn kind of drawings. It's got that vibe about it, but that's as much as I'd go with it. I might put a background on it and just break it up a little bit so it doesn't look like it's floating too much. Quite like it sometimes when it'll have a floaty, sort of bit of a shadow in the background. But again, that's me designing it. And this is the thing with backgrounds. Backgrounds always seem to be design choice for me. So that's the kind of girl that I'm going to be doing. This is that one there. So I'm going to design that, and there'll be part of execute. So I'm conscious of this now. So it's a deliberate thing. So I'm conscious of the execution of it being part of the design. So what textures I decide to do on, or whether or not I need to decide to make it a solid, sort of flat. Because I've just seen a guy this morning doing exactly this. That he looks at an image of a girl like that, and he's got the live model there with him, and he flattens everything out and puts a few lines around. It's very deliberately designed. He calls it his style, but you can tell, and these are all pink or all yellow, whatever. They're going to hang on a gallery somewhere, and they're going to look absolutely fabulous and guaranteed to sell. But it's not a coincidence that happens. That person actually knows what they're doing. So whereas I'm just sticking them on anywhere in the middle of the paper, hoping it fits. He's actually breaking it down and making these things decorative, if you like, because that's the thing. It's sort of a still life, decorative still life with a person in it, and that's basically what they're doing. So as I said, what I'm going to do with this is I'm trying to find out if there's any more that. See, I normally just stick faces in the middle of the paper, because I just want to draw. I don't want to draw. I don't want to do anything else. I just want to draw stuff. You know what I mean? And if that becomes, there's no way anybody's going to buy these things. And I've got 4,000 of them running things. So I mean, there's no way they're going to sell. But that's never been the attention. The intention rather. It's always been about me just having a good time and enjoying myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down into the stages of, and this is not the video. This is the video that says, let's ask this question. So I'm going to break it down into the choice of image. Why? I mean, from a design point of view, there are three elements to this image. There is that there, which balances to that there, with a lighter bit in the middle, and that's about all it is. You know what I mean? There's a nice kind of balance and rhythm to it. I mean, there's occasional darks that appear on her breast there and all that sort of thing, but essentially, it's just three shapes. That one, and that one. To me, as a designer, so I'm going to break down why I chose that image. I'm also going to think about the execution side of it, because I'll still do the let's figure out where everything is kind of thing, and looking for the dots and stuff, but the dots are going to be across the body, as opposed to, so it would probably be, if I was looking for, I wouldn't fall into let's divide everything, because to be fair, or to be honest rather, I think I talked about this guy this morning, there is a responsive wrongness kind of distortion thing that sometimes happens, but when it's purely intended, it has a rightness about it, and this is what this guy has worked out. So there are elements that need to be right, but there are things where the lines look at Brian Hamberlin, look at his characters, absolutely fabulous, but the arms are too long and the legs are too long. So it's a style, a thing that he's, adapted or adopted, or it may be just his way of working, which is fine. And that I won't fall into that trap of, oh, it's so many, all this kind of thing, because that's how the figurative drawers do it, figurative artists do it. It's going to be purely response. So I'm going to go. This is the image I'm going to do, and this is why I've chosen it. There'll be things like technical things, like it's slightly out of focus in places. I've increased the density of things, I've up the levels, all that sort of stuff. And then the next one will be how I go about drawing it, and then the next will be the finish. Because one of the things I'd say about the design thing is invariably, like you saw with the girl that was kind of washed out, is that the finish of it, the execution, the end bit where it's rubbed out and it's distressed and it's not, and it's all one bright color or whatever, all those sort of things are the things that make it saleable, if you like, and make it more design than than an actual copy or an actual replication of a face. But it's another route, I think. The guy that mentioned about designing paintings this morning was referring to this sort of composition, if you like, of the scene, whereas this, what I'm talking about now, and it's singular, it's just going to be a portrait of one person, albeit sort of 3/4 of a body. These scene creators have a massive task, because you can see why people end up at that place. We won't start off by building a scene of 10 people sat around a table. You end up there, the famous Soroya thing with the folding of the sheets thing. But there again, you see, that's a perfect example of a design. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do, whether it ends up being a 3-parter, which it might do, it might be the choice of image, the initial execution, sort of. Because one of the things that I got really conscious of is that how you begin is how how you finish. And what did Robert and Rice say? A good start is a good finish. So it's going to be how you approach it in the first instance, the early marks. We talk about the early marks of all the life. That's where it's going to actually happen. The execution of it, the actual, the finish and the representation of it as a design will be the last part of it, and it may well end up destroying some of the initial part of it, because, as I said, some of these things end up being sort of colourful patchworks that are just intended to be sort of decorative images. So that's it. So there'll probably be 3 videos in it. So this one is just simply asking the questions. So whether you want to get your head around it and think, well, I don't think I should be designed, I just want to draw a face or whatever, or whether or not you've been thinking about the saleability of portraits. I don't consider that, but I can look at it from a point of view as a designer. All those years ago, I knew what would sell, communicate, but not necessarily to the client, but to the customer. That's my job, to identify a customer and speak to them in their language. That was my job. So I'm going to apply that thinking to building a portrait. So I'm going to put it in a playlist probably on here. Whether it goes in the members area or not, I'm not quite sure. As I said, I'm closing the members area, so I wouldn't bother. It'll just be on here, but in a playlist. So I'll catch you later.